part 2 is going to be more of taking this machine to the next level. I hope if you like the content so far, like and subscribe. You know, let's build the channel together. I really appreciate everybody that's been watching. And I certainly appreciate everybody else that's been just, you know, really kind of writing in and saying things. Even some of the criticism, it's not, you know, most of you guys when you write, maybe it's a critique. Every now and then I get somebody that's not very nice, but when you guys have something to share, right, don't think of it as criticism. It's a critique. It's a contribution. If you're nice about it, I'm always learning, right? You know, I'm still new at this, okay? I've been a mechanic for all my life, but this whole field, the technology, the YouTube, finding things on the side of the road and seeing what they're like, buying all this stuff, this is all new even to me. We're going to share together, we're going to learn together, but I got a lot to teach and I got a lot to show you, and I got a lot of cool stuff still coming up. So watch the rest of this video if you guys want and check it out. We're going to take this machine to the next level. I hope you enjoyed it so far, and I'll see you on the next one. Archer's Garage. This is Fast Etch. Eastwood sells it. So does like Kirker Auto Body. But you can get it. Kirker is a product company that makes a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of companies that make it. It's Fast Etch Body Prep. It's a phosphoric acid compound, fairly light. You can get it on your skin. It won't hurt, but just don't leave it, right? It's good to use, right? It will convert the rust. Now we use it in auto body to prep the metal before we paint. Now a lot of auto body products nowadays are what's known as DTM, or direct to metal. So that means they have this kind of acid already in it, and it etches in and allows the paint to stick. Primer, because you want to make sure that it's going to stick. So we're just going to put it all over everything. Why? Because just a light coat, that's all I need. Alright, I'm going to let that sit, and I'm going to go outside. I'm going to find myself, this is missing a hubcap, so I'm going to go find those hubcaps. I'm going to let that sit for 15 to 20 while I go do a few other things. We're going to come back and we're going to Scotch-Brite the whole thing to sort of put a little tooth. Alright, we don't want to ruin the paint that's good, but just to put a little tooth in, and the acid will help do that as well. It'll actually eat a little bit into the paint on a microscopic level, and it'll give it a little bit more tooth. And then we'll just kind of focus in on the areas that we're working with. And then we're going to use a little green clean and a rag and a little bucket. And we're going to wipe everything off and blow it, right? And get it nice and dry. And if it's not drying fast enough for you, you can either spray a little alcohol on it, a little lacquer thinner. You don't really want to, alcohol's better. You don't really want to use lacquer thinner because it can damage the paint that's good. So you want to stay away from that. You can use a little gasoline and just wipe it down, and that'll help it to dry a little faster. But this will make sure that the rust is stabilized, and we'll get to the next step in a minute. I don't have a finger to turn the camera off with.
Later.
Alright, Scotch-Brited. Ran a Scotch-Brite over it. Okay, wiped it with a wet rag. Then I sprayed my green clean on it, and then damp ragged it again, blew it off with the compressor, and you can hear it filling up. And we're just going to let it air dry for a little bit. I have some other stuff to do. So she's clean, and she's ready for the next step. And the next step is we're going to tape off a few things. We don't have to tape off a lot, but we'll tape off a few things. And I'll probably spray the motor next. That way it'll be a little easier, and also give everything more time to dry. So it's pretty much ready to go. You know, it's fairly warm in the shop. It's a lousy day out. I have some stuff to do. I'll be back in a bit. We'll let it dry. But I just dressed it out, and that's it. It's just that easy. We'll let that set up for a little bit. I'm going to swing it around. I'm going to put on this guy, and then we'll spray this. And I lubed it, so it's all lubricated. And then I'll wipe it off, and we'll mount it. And then I'll touch up. I'm just going to wipe it off after I mount it. And I'll touch up the paint that's on it, you know, on the top of that then. And then we're done with that, and then we'll focus in on the body.
20 minutes later.
Alright, so we're all taped off. Now, what I want to do now, I'm just going to put a little bit of primer on. It's a high build primer. It'll help fill in the nasties. And we're just going to kind of just dress it around. Just a little bit. Alright. And it's close to the right color. And you want a decent amount. It'll help fill. It'll get in underneath. Now I'm putting a lot, so that's it. That's enough in that area because I'm not sanding or anything. All right, and then I'm going to let this sit. It'll probably drip a little, but that's okay. In the flat areas, it's not a big deal. And if it drips a little, we don't care. But it'll fill the obvious areas. And yeah, it's already leveling. That's it. It's just I got one more little spot to do. Now you're not going to get everything perfect. Yeah. It gets in underneath too. It gets, if there's any flaking of the paint. That's it. Alright. Now I'm going to leave that sit for about 15. I'm going to go do something else. And I'm going to come back. And we're going to lay an actual coat on. So while that's drying, I'm going to go find the tube for the gas tank. We'll put the gas tank on. Maybe we'll put the top on, right? Whatever else I feel like doing. And then we'll come back. And the last coat is just a quick coat. We're going to do the color. And then going to leave it overnight. We'll be back. Okay guys, we got it all done. We got a new filter in it. We got the nice oil in it, and I put a little bit of the Lucas additive in there that'll sweeten up the combustion chamber and the rings and get everything kind of a little bit better. It'll also help with compression. It's a little bit thicker. We got gas in it. It's all done, right? It's a little, not tacky, but you know, overnight it dries, but it takes a day or two to cure. So all that's basically done, and let's just fire it up. We got the bag on. Remember, you need the bag on to fire this thing. So we're going to go to start mode, and we're going to go to start mode there. Somebody wrote on it, so we'll leave that there, right? So this is full choke. This is the turkey, and this side is the snail. All right, well, nice and tight. Everything's on. Oh, I smell bacon. Let's take a little choke off. Have it on start. I just put some gas in it, so it may not be in the bowl yet. I didn't put a lot in. Oh boy. Can you have this down? Plugged in? Yep, plugged in. This may not be down all the way. Yeah, I wonder if that's the problem. May have to bend this tab down a little bit. Because it may not be sparking. So let me see what that is. That might be what's wrong. Okay, so the bag's a little kind of crappy. So what I do is I put a clamp over here, and I'm going to tell the customer to do that. It's got a little rip in it which can be sewed. And I bent the tab down a little bit. So now let's see. Now we shouldn't need too much choke because we've been pulling it. Oh my. Oh, good. Wants to do something. Let's try it again. Make sure that might need to put a little more fuel in it. right, let's just give it a quick hot start. Yeah, it's not easy, huh? Okay, so you see what happens, right? It is difficult to start because it doesn't have a lot of compression. In a motor like this, it could be a problem. Now, it has a manual choke, and that could be a problem too. So let's put a little choke on. Okay, shut the choke off. See? So she has an issue. So she may not be pulling enough fuel. Let's find out. This is why I do these kinds of tests, especially when you see kind of lower compression, why I'm not a big fan of it. She runs strong, and a lot of these motors will. Right, they seem like they run strong, but they'll give you some start issues. Take a little bit of squirt fuel. Let's make sure we have enough gas in it. I don't put a lot in these things, so let's make sure we put a little more gas in. Okay, so I put a little more gas in the tank, and I also put a little alcohol, a little lacquer thinner in it, which has a little alcohol and some toluene. It'll make it a little bit more volatile, and it'll also help clean the combustion chamber and the valves a little bit. And I think that's pretty important. So let's try it again. Now we're just going to leave it set to start, and we'll put the choke about midway. Wants to. See, it wants to start. Let's take the choke off. Okay, almost wants to. Let's squirt a little fuel in it now. Let's see if we can get it to prime. Let's see if it's an issue there. Okay guys, now what you saw me do is I used basically Windex. Well, my Windex is a little different. It's got windshield washer fluid in it, it's got some vinegar in it, it's got some ammonia in it, and it's got some alcohol in it. And so I actually use that for prepping out stuff before I paint. It's really good because it doesn't leave any streaks or marks. But why in here? Well, you could just use water too, or soapy water. Because when you're running the engine, if you don't want to flood it, you don't want to hydrolock it or stop it. When you run the engine, it's hot. When that water goes in, it has a real high flash point. You know, it turns to Steve at 200 degrees, 212, and under pressure in the cylinder, it's going to be higher than that, but it's going to expand real fast, and it shears the carbon off of the surfaces. In fact, we'll do some testing on that, and I'll show you. We'll do a motor on that, and you could even see a little bit of blue stuff was coming out. So between that, all right, helping to clean the valves and the combustion chambers and the rings a little bit, the alcohol and the treatments that I have in the gas, and also the stuff that I put in the oil, that'll help this thing. Now, she's not blowing smoke, okay, but she is a little low on compression, and it is hard to start because you're spinning this big wheel. Now, here is another little tip. This is what happens with older machines. You're not going to change the motor out because, like I said to you earlier, there's a different shaft on this thing. All right, and it's a lot of work, and you're not going to want to do that. So I'll knock off a few dollars on this machine because you see how strong it is. But another little tip, even when it's warm, right, we'll go to full throttle, and we'll go to full choke, and then just back it off one notch, okay? And let's pull it. Pull it. Okay, so these are the little kind of tips that, you know, I like to share with people, and I know a lot of them. It's just not always going to have a reason to share it. So this is still a good machine. I'm going to train the person that buys it. There's nothing wrong with it, really. In fact, it will probably wake up and get a little bit more compression out of it as they use it. But I'll teach them a little bit about how to care for it and how to get it started and what they may need to do. Pull the air filter off, maybe get a little starting fluid at the beginning of the year, whatever routine. And that'll help them have a better user experience. And for the money, this is a really tight, really, really good machine. They're going to get a lot of years out of it. So we'll be back in a bit. Like and subscribe. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. So now for those of you that are kind of new at this and you're just looking for some simple, good, basic techniques, that's what this was really geared around. I didn't get into showing you every little process that I do because that's really for another video. But you saw the repair and the service. And by the way, just to back up a little bit, this I use a stain. I use basically like it's a vinyl and plastic paint. I only do one coat. 2 coats is better, but I just did the 1 coat because, again, this is not one of the primo machines. And what I'll do is I'll spray a little bit on, I'll put a little bit on a brush, and I'll cut in and around. And the stain is better. Don't use regular paint because it'll peel off. Use a fusion or a vinyl and plastic or something correct for the type of material. Make sure it's cleaned and degreased really well, and you can even scuff it a little bit. But anyway, getting back to this, what I did put in was a little bit of my favorite Lucas product, and I'll leave a link down in the subscription if I remember, right? So I put a little bit of that in, and why? Because it was a little bit low on compression, and it'll help, right? Remember, you're pulling this thing, it's hard to pull because you got this really big disc, aluminum disc with metal weights in there, and so there's a lot of inertia to that. Now, it's dry, it's a day later, it's a little tacky, but I can go and start it and demo it. It needs to cure, and if it was nice out, well, it's not, but if it was nice out, we'd put it in the sun and let the UV get at it. But in a couple of days, it'll be rock solid. Now, you can see that it was painted, right? And you can tell. And the primer helped. The primer, by the way, is just really good to use in general because these paints, although they're really good, when they're over that kind of material, that sort of rusty metal, whatever, they don't really lay down correct. They don't stick right. especially if it's on a vertical surface. So if you add a little bit of primer, first let that primer dry, it's just going to be better overall. But again, I didn't really get into that. So guys, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And don't forget to leave a comment. I'll have other videos on how to pick machines for fun and profit, and especially for profit. For fun, I say fun and profit, but for fun, I can't define what's fun for you. If you find a machine that takes you a year, right, to fool around with, and you want to do every little minutia, and you're not worried about money, right, that's a whole nother story. But for fun and profit, something quick that you can get in, get out of, or maybe even like one of my other videos where you're doing a repair and service tune-up. This, to me, is a tune-up. But I take it a little bit further because I got this machine for free. But I'll often buy machines that are in this condition that you saw originally overall, because I'm pretty good at cleaning them up and I'm not too worried about it. And I'm not so worried about the price that I get for it. The price is what you're going to get. That's all there is to it. What you want is something that puts you in a price range of $100, $200, $300, somewhere in that neighborhood. If you're happy with the time you're putting in and you're enjoying it and you feel that you can get a few dollars out of it to pay for everything that you did, if you bought the machine for 10 or 20, you put $10 maybe into materials and then your time. Remember, when you're learning, you really can't think about how much time you put in. You need to think more about what you're putting into it. What are you getting out of it? Are you learning? Are you missing some tools? So that's going to slow you down. If you're missing some tools, it may be that you can't do the same level of quality that you'd like to do. And so when you get to those points, right, you have a choice. You can upscale or you can stay where you are. You may say, I don't mind working in my driveway. I want to work on a nice day. I don't want to screw up my shop or my shed or make a place out in the backyard or clean out my garage and have a place dedicated to this. I don't do it often enough. I want to be able to do this on a nice day outside. Well, basically everything I did here, you could do in your driveway, you could do outside. So I used to do it on my lawn in the back. I'd put this table out and I'd wait for nice days, and I'd be out there on a beautiful day when I had some time, and that's how I started doing it. And that's really good because the lighting is really good, right? You could make a mess and blow it and sweep it off the table and you don't care because these things make a mess. So you don't have to do it in a shop. All right, guys, we're out on this one. I hope you guys enjoy it. And again, this is a little bit more geared for the beginner. And for those of you that are more advanced, I hope you enjoyed it too. Maybe you pick up something here and there. That's what I do. I watch a lot of other people, and sometimes it's the same thing all over again. But they'll often show me something that I didn't know. And that's what this is all about, getting a little bit better at it and enjoying it, getting out there and getting your hands dirty and getting it done. And don't forget, if it ain't fixed, it's probably broken. And when you start off with this thing, whatever you're doing, don't make it worse. Archer's Garage!